Well, welcome back, everybody, and today we're going to finish up Chapter 3 with individual characteristics. And as you remember, yesterday we looked at the Myers-Briggs. We saw some different dimensions when it comes to a person's personality and so forth, and you had a chance to take a look at the video to see really what type of personality dimension you fall into. Again, this isn't set in stone, but it can give you an idea of the way that we classify people in the way that they behave and some of their personality traits and characteristics. Today, we're going to take a look at learning styles. Specifically, we're going to look at the concept of intelligence, and I've got another video to incorporate into this presentation. And we're also going to take a look at the different types of orientations when it comes to learning. We're going to take a look at some types of the learning styles that are out there today. So let's begin today with the concept of intelligence. Now, what is intelligence? Well, you have a general mental ability, and that's what we normally give just an overall definition of intelligence, attribute it to. And it's the capacity to rapidly and fluidly acquire, process, and apply information. When you think about it, it's kind of like a computer. Intelligence is kind of like a computer system where you have a series of inputs, processes, and outputs and so forth. And how you take in information, how rapidly you take it in, how you take it in, through what medium and so forth, whether it's hearing, smell, touch, taste, vision, and how you process that information once it's inside your mind. You've filtered it, you've categorized it, you've placed it in the compartments in your brain, and you're starting to really process and work through the experiences that you've encountered, and how you apply that information is what we would call the output, whether it's through behaviors or whether it's through some other form of outward expression. But this is what intelligence is. It's to rapidly and fluidly. That means it's not static. You're constantly taking in information, new experiences, and so forth, and to process it and apply it. That's what we call intelligence. Now, it's also information processing capacity, and that's the manner in which individuals process and organize information. And you also see the effects of it, and that's in task learning, performance, and ability to process and organize information efficiently. And then you have positively affected by general mental ability. So you see the interaction of cognitive, or what we call cognitive, and that means thinking abilities and so forth, how you take in information, how quickly you take it in, how efficiently and effectively you take it in, categorize it, process it, and disseminate it through, again, behaviors and verbal information and what have you. These are all the components of intelligence. Now, we have a video that I want to show you here that's coming up next that kind of looks at an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So let's take a look at it, and I want you to think about intelligence in the way that they've explained it here. Well, as you can see, intelligence is something that is far-reaching. It is something that is complex, and it's something that we really don't understand. It's what we call a construct, and a construct is a phenomenon that we can kind of see the effects of, but we really can't measure it or really see it or experience it tangibly. For instance, happiness. Now, how do you measure that? How do you see happiness? You see the effects of happiness, but what is happiness? You can't taste it, you can't touch it, you can't smell it. Intelligence is the same way. These are the things that we call in psychology constructs. But as you can see, intelligence is quite complex. Now, one of the things that you saw in the video was Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Now, Gardner did research on people who had brain trauma, And if one part of the brain was damaged, the other side of the brain would compensate for it. And some of his studies are quite fascinating, especially when it comes to victims of stroke or when it comes to someone who might have been in a car accident or had a gunshot wound or whatever. What Gardner found out was that there are multiple intelligences. The brain works in many different ways. And as you see here, he has categorized some of these from linguistic, which is intelligence that is within the realm of words and language, logical, mathematical, which deals with logic and numbers, musical. These are the more expressive types of intelligences where you deal with music, rhythm, and sound. Bodily, which is the body movement and control. Spatial and visual, where you take a look at time and space and images in space. Interpersonal, dealing with other people's feelings. And intrapersonal, which is self-awareness. Now, one of the things that has come up to really the forefront today of business, of all places, is the idea of emotional intelligence. And that's the ability to perceive and express emotions, to understand and use them, and to manage emotions in oneself and other people. Now, there are different dimensions of that, but really emotional intelligence is the ability to be sensitive to others. And you've probably seen in want ads today the requirements that you must be a people person, you must be outgoing, you must be a good communicator, must be able to work well with others. These are all characteristics of someone who has a good deal of emotional intelligence. Now, what are some of the dimensions of emotional intelligence? Well, self-awareness. And that's one of the first starting places. Be aware of how you're feeling, what type of person you are. It's very hard for you to be able to relate to others when you don't know how they perceive you, because you don't know how you perceive yourself. So self-awareness is important. The next is self-motivation, and that's persisting through obstacles and setbacks. Are you a person who is easily discouraged? Are you a person who pushes through adversity no matter what? These are some of the dimensions that would indicate a person and their self-motivation. Self-management, and that's managing your own emotions and impulses. Control, self-control. That's the issue with a lot of people today that get themselves in trouble. Self-control. They can't control themselves, their emotions, their angers. They act out on impulse. And we know from the Bible, it tells us that an emotional person, an impulsive person, often makes a fool of himself because they act out of raw emotion without thinking through situations. And we also have empathy. And empathy is being able to sense how others are feeling, being sensitive to others, having a genuine care for others. That's important today. And then social skills. Effectively handling emotions of others. How do you deal with people who are really maybe going through a crisis or struggling at that point? Do you show some type of empathy towards them? Can you help them to overcome those emotional crises that they're going through? All of these are the elements that are necessary today for people to be effective, and that's what we call emotional intelligence. Now, when it comes to learning, what type of learner are you? Are you the type that likes to just read and take it in intellectually, cognitively? Or are you the person who likes to do things, get your hands dirty and get in there and do it yourself? Some people learn by touching. Maybe if they want to learn how electricity works, they would maybe touch a low voltage type of thing, or I wouldn't suggest it, but I'm just throwing out stuff here. Visual learning. They learn by seeing. Let me observe, and if I watch you, I can do it. These are the types of learning styles that your book talks about that people engage in when they are developing. And here are those modalities. You have the visual learners. They learn by seeing. Just let me watch you, and I can do it. Auditory. They learn by listening. You just tell me what I need to do, and I'll go out and I'll do it. Tactile. Learning by touching. Kinesthetic. Learning by doing. So those are some of the learning styles that, especially when it comes to the field of adult learning and organizations, this is how they learn. This is how you can have a classroom, and the people in the classroom may not get it because they need to go out and do the work, or they need to see the work being done, and so forth. This is why we try to incorporate different ways of delivering this curriculum through PowerPoint, through audio, and also through some of the videos that I'm showing and so forth, to kind of mix things up. And then you have the textbook as well, which is seeing and so forth. So these are the types of learning styles. Which one do you learn better by or using? Take a look at that, and I may ask you that this week on a forum question. Now, Kolb is a man who came up with what's called the learning circle. And what he discovered is that people go through maybe a cycle of learning when they are experiencing new stimuli. And he identified different styles. You have convergers. These people are good at technical tasks. They learn by active experimentation and abstract conceptualization. That means they can take a concept and they understand it, and they can go out and they can do with their hands what needs to be done, but they're not very good with interpersonal relationships. They don't really mesh with people. Divergers. They learn by concrete experience, by looking, observing, hearing, tasting, and reflective observation. They are good in generating alternative hypotheses and ideas. They tend to be imaginative, and people are feeling oriented. And so these are kind of the ones who are in touch with themselves. They have empathy, emotional intelligence. Assimilators learn by abstract conceptualization and reflective observation. They're more concerned about abstract concepts and logical soundness than about people and practical values. And again, these are suited to research units. So these may be the analytical, the professors, the theorists, and so forth, who are the broad thinkers. And then you have accommodators, and they learn by active experimentation and concrete experience. They focus on risks, opportunity seeking, and action. They deal with people easily. Suited to action-oriented jobs such as marketing and sales, these are the ones who can motivate you, and they are the Machiavellian type of people at times for the more malevolent types of individuals, but they do deal with people quite effectively, and they do make good people as far as sales, marketing, and so forth. So these are some of the learning styles that Kolb found that you'll find in business and in your classrooms. Now finally, you have learning style orientations. And really this is kind of just a broad dimensional representation of what we just saw. You have those who are discovery learning, and that's an inclination for explanation or exploration during learning. Then you have the experiential. They want the hands-on approach to instruction, and observational. They want to be able to experience stimuli such as demonstrations and diagrams and so forth. So they're more visual than maybe just hearing and so forth. But these are the main types of orientations that you will see with the learners. Now, why is this important? Well, when you are trying to develop your organization or even your church staff, you have to learn that people learn different ways and in different levels of progression. Some are slow learners, some are quick. Some, if you just give them a task and let them do it once or show them how to do it, you can let them go. Others are more hands-on. So this will give you an idea of the way people learn And once you know how they learned, you can apply the correct methodology to be able to develop them effectively. Well, folks, that's all we've got for this week, and I'll do my exit comments here in just a minute, and I look forward to us getting back together and us going through Chapter 4.